Remember those beaded curtains from the 60s? Well, that was my inspiration for the photo room divider that we're going to make today on the Scrapbook Showgram. Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese and welcome to the Scrapbook Showgram. Well, here you can see the top of a room divider that I created for Addison and Quincy's because they share a room. So I made one to sit in the doorway of their room, and if I lift it up, you'll be able to see that some of the circles actually have photos. Hopefully some of them, I can see one right there of Addison, but there's different photos of them, casual, outside, inside. But basically, the room divider is made up of just a whole bunch of circles. So to begin with, you can create circles any number of ways. If you have a circle cutter, you can do that. If you're going to cut them by hand, you just need circle shapes. You know, like I said before, the lids to Tupperware containers or any small saucers or cups or glasses. You just want an assortment. I'll hold it back up again, and you can see. Well, actually, I've got them right here. Let me hold these up. You can see all of these different size circles. I've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 5 different size circles that I used. And because I wanted so many, I actually used a die and die cut them. So this particular die cuts out 4 different of the circles, and then I added this one additional size larger circle is what I used for cutting mine. And if you haven't used a die cutter before, there's lots of different kinds. This one happens to be a Sizzix. What I have here is 4 different colors of cardstock, and I'm going to cut them all at once because it's just a lot faster. So I'm going to place it so that it sits on the rubber side of the die and then flip it over onto the cutting pad, and then I'm going to slide it so that it's flush on the back end, and then I'm going to slide it the rest of the way so that it's flush on the front end. The lowering of the handle creates the pressure so that it cuts out the circles. And this is just a quick way. Let's see if I can lift this up so you can see. Here's the smallest size 4 circles, and if I lift all these up, this is a quick way to be able to get lots of circle shapes, and I will pull those out later. Now I'm going to move this out of the way so that I have more room to show you the next step. All right, now I want to start with the top, this portion of the divider here. I wanted it to be pretty much the length of the doorway, and most doorways in a home are between 30 and 32 or 33 inches. That's big. So what I did is I went to my trusty Staples store. You'd think I work there or something. I never have. But they carry this white, as a former teacher, I would call this butcher paper, and we used it to line our bulletin boards. It comes in lots of different colors. You can get these rolls at Staples, and this is like 36 or even more. I'm not sure, but I know it's longer than even what I needed. I think it's 36 inches roughly. So what I did first is, it's too big to fit in my paper trimmer, so I opened up and I cut more than I need, and with scissors, I just cut off a length of it. The problem is, I want it to be straight. So here is the one that I cut, and the edges are all funny. The only edges I'm sure are straight are the ends. So what I'm going to do is fold it, and I'm going to line up the end, and I know that what I've done is I've cut more than I'm going to need. So I'm folding it, and at this point I would take, you can see just how crooked my cuts were. I folded it in the middle, roughly, like so that I could get it into my paper trimmer. Then I put it in the paper trimmer, and I cut it at 2 3/4 inches, just sliced it. If you open it up, that means that the overall size was 5.5, but let me show you. So you end up with a nice straight edge that this dimension here is 2 3/4, and if you open it up, the whole thing is 5.5. that's how I got this length to start with. And then I trimmed down those. Remember I said it started as 36 inches? Well, I trimmed it down to match the size of the doorway where it was going, which was roughly, I think 32 inches in my case. But measure your door and make yours, you know, the right size that works for you. To decorate it, what I did is I didn't have any colored paper that I wanted to use in the colors that I wanted that were long enough. So I took my 12 by 12 paper that was pink in the color they like, and I'm going to go ahead, if you haven't heard me say this before, you'd put much more adhesive than that, but to save time, I'm going to, this pink paper has been cut so that it's 2 3/4 inches, and of course it's the whole 12 inches as long as I could get it. So you fasten that down. You know, as I pull this up to show you different steps, I'm probably going to be sorry that there isn't more adhesive on there. And then just butt this up to the last one and fasten that down, and then take the final one, and I don't need to do the whole thing, and attach this to the last edge and glue that down. And when you have the whole thing attached, I just turn it over and take my scissors, and I'll have to do this way down here, but trim off any excess. And this gives me the pink background that I started with. And then I had a darker pink stripe. So what I did was I cut darker pink paper into 1-inch strips. And I'm going to put adhesive, just enough to hold it long enough to show you. Now I want to cover those seams where I matched and I put the paper together. So I'm actually going to start, and I'm going to start right on top of this, you know, this edge that's pieced together here. And I'm going to place my first one like so, and then I'll trim off the excess. It's so hard to do this with something so big. And then I have a 1-inch spacer that's going to just make it easy for me to see where to place the next one. And then I'll place the next one down, pick my spacer up, trim off the excess that's overlapping, and you would just keep going all the way to the end. And I figured out when I go this way, it's going to also cover the seam on this end as well by the time I work my way down. So when you have the whole thing, all the stripes attached, then it's time to look at the actual names. And once again, I used a die cut. This happens to be what's called a shadow alphabet. So it cuts the letter itself, and I used a lighter red and then a darker red for the shadow. So this is going to sit on top of this. But to add a little bit more detail, I rubber stamped this light one first. So let me show you. Here's the rubber stamp that I used, and it's called a watermark ink pad. It's made by Versamark, and what you're going to do, you can take, in this case, this is a larger stamp, or, you know, I have foam smaller stamps. I think I'll start with the smaller one, and I'm going to ink it up with the watermark ink, and I'm going to do this on a piece of scratch paper so that I can go right off the edge. And I'm going to just go off the edge. I'm going to ink some more. This time I think I'll turn it this way. The watermark ink pad is great because all it does is it deepens the color that you start with. So any color of paper that you have ends up looking like you have 2 shades. It creates just a wonderful pattern. Sometimes if I have an opening and I see, oh, there's a kind of a big space there, I'll ink up the end of a pencil eraser and add some dots in there as well. So you do want to let that dry, but it dries awfully quick. I'll show you, I've already done the 2 D's. You can see they're ready to go, and now it's time to attach this to this. So I'm going to flip it over and add my adhesive to the inside A, and I'll use my tweezers so you can see, and my hands hopefully will be out of the way, and position this on top of its shadow and press it down. And at this point you would be ready to go back, and what I did is I placed them all down first, and you can go straight, you can do a fun thing where you angle. it's a little quicker if you don't worry about making them straight. I hand placed them down first, saw where the spacing should go, and then went back and glued the letters down. And I'll hold this back up so you can see that this is, you end up with, you know, the striped background and then their names, Addison and Quincy. We call them Q&A. Of course, that would mean you have to say Quincy and Addison. Once you've got this strip done, and remember, I'll hold this so you can see, this is open because this is where, inside is where you're going to attach each of those long strands of circles that become like the curtain, or the sort of like the circles replicate the idea of the beads in the beaded curtain. So what you need to do, I started with, this is called jewelry nylon monofilament, and it's made for beading. I've also used fish line because it's the same idea. It's just a clear nylon thread, and there's lots of different thicknesses. It can be whatever thickness. This one says that it's 8-pound, whatever that means. It doesn't really mean much to me. The length of that you want to cut these is based on the height of your kids. I don't like it to hang so low that they're constantly running through it. I like it to just kind of brush the top of their head. So in my case, mine were, I think, about 30 inches. It was about the right length. I'm going to cut this much shorter just so I have an easier time to work with the piece that's left to show you how to do this. So you have the clear nylon thread, and then you're going to start with matching pairs of circles. And I'll use this as my background paper. If you're doing a small circle to start with and you want it not to move on you, sometimes I put a little bit of removable adhesive and it will hold it there while I put adhesive. I need to find the matching size circle in the same color. I don't have to put adhesive on that except just down the middle where the thread's going to go. Otherwise, they're going to stick together. So I'm going to lay this, wonder if I set this down on a color, if you could see it a little better. Probably not, but I'll set it on this pink just to see if that helps. So I'm going to set this down, and I'll take the first circle, and this happens to be the one that just has the little strip of adhesive down the middle, and I'm going to press down so that the adhesive is sticking to the clear thread, and then I'm going to take the other one and turn it over, line it up. So what I'm doing is I'm sandwiching the clear thread in between the two circles. So I have like a circle sandwich. That gives you the first circle. And remember, I had stuck this down, so I'm going to rub off that removable adhesive so that I have a nice plain circle. So once you've attached the first circle, then you want to put a different color, at least I did, and a different size. So if this yellow is going to be the next one, I'll go ahead and I'll put adhesive on one, and on the matching one I'll just put the one that's going to go down the middle. Take this and place it underneath the blue, and I'm going to leave a little space. It doesn't need to be solid. And then press it into position, and then take the matching larger circle and align it with the base and press it down. And you would just keep going until you have all of the circles attached. Once you have the first one done, then you're going to keep doing 8 more. At least that's how many I did to create 9 altogether. So once you have all 9 of these circle strands completed, you need to attach the photos. And what I did was a couple of different things. In some cases, I die cut the photo in the same circle shape as the base it's going to sit on, so that there isn't going to be any border showing. It's going to be the solid picture. And that's because I had some photos that were really quite large, and I wanted the whole thing to show. So here's one that I'm going to go ahead, you would put more adhesive than that, but I'm going to go ahead and place this so that it sits right over the top of that yellow circle. Now, one of the things that I used to do some of the smaller circles is a punch, and the beauty of the punches is you can see exactly. I can see that if I cut here, I have things showing in the top I don't need, and I'm cutting off part of Quincy's face. So I'm going to take my scissors and trim down, get rid of some of the waste on the top, and now try again and see, oh, okay, now I can maneuver it around so that I get her whole face and a little of the background. Now, if I were to just punch this the way it is, some of the punches, when you're using thin paper like this color copy paper, it wants to fight you and kind of shred the edges. The secret is to put some cardstock, something that's a little thicker, or even one more thickness of paper. You're not sticking it down, you just have to do it so that the punch goes through two thicknesses. So now I'm going to position it where I want it, and I'm going to go ahead and punch, and I'm going to toss the white one, and I will take this and I would position this inside one of the larger circles as I position this onto one of the strands. So that's how you attach the photos to the different circle shapes in all the strands. And when you have 9 strands completed with all the circles and all the photos where you want them, then you are going to tape them into this header, this long strip. And all I did was I just took and I started, I haven't marked this, so I don't actually know exactly where the middle is, but all you have to do is fold the two ends together just for a minute to see exactly where the center is. And then I'm going to place this along the center line, and I have some, I don't have the first circle right away. I have a little bit of the clear nylon thread first. Tape it nice and solid, and then going, since I have 9, I start with the middle, and then I'll do 4 more equidistant apart going to the right and 4 more going to the left. And when all of those are placed, you add your adhesive to just 1/2 of this white strip, and then you close this over the top and press on it really strongly and nice and sturdy. And so that if I hold this up, you can see how you now have all of those secured inside your header. That's going to now be, you can thumbtack it to the door, or if you have a nice strong tape, whatever is an adhesive that you're comfortable with that you use to hold things up around your house, you can go ahead and attach it to the door. You know, a room divider, it's bright, it's colorful, and it creates a really unique introduction to any of your kids' rooms. Remember, I always enjoy hearing your comments, and if you haven't already shared us with your scrapbooking friends, it would be great if you did. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you did. Bye for now.